Welcome to a live episode of Surviving the Survivor. We bring you the best guests in all of true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button. Here's your host, Emmy Award-winning broadcaster, Joel Waldman.
What's up, STS Nation? Welcome to another episode of Surviving the Survivor, the podcast that promises to bring you the very best guests in all of true crime. I say it every time because it's not just a tagline, it's a reality. And today's panel, just as good, if not better, than the rest of them. We're going to dip into Charles Daybell, but before we get there, we've got Lori Vallow's brother, Adam Cox, who probably doesn't love that type of introduction all the time because he's his own man. He's a pickleball champion. He's a former disc jockey. The guy's got his own life. So Adam Cox is his own person. And today is his birthday. So happy birthday, Adam. I will not ask you the number, but how's it feel to get a year older?
I used to love birthdays, and now I kind of go the opposite way. Try to keep it low, keep everything on the DL. Let's not mention birthday. Let's keep it just, once you hit a certain age, you just don't want to keep counting.
I'm going to take hate for this, but I mean this with all love and respect and admiration. Does anyone ever tell you you're a much better looking version of Norm Macdonald?
Norm Macdonald. No, but I interviewed Norm Macdonald on the radio in Phoenix, and he's one of my friend's favorite comedians. He is hilarious. No one's ever said we looked alike, but I did spend some time with him, so that's funny you say that.
Yeah, sadly, he passed not long ago, but the guy was one of the most talented comedians. So, but yeah. Adam Cox, a handsome man, and we're going to get into this in a moment, as is Grunkle Rex, and of course, Dr. Marinakis. But Charles Daybell's jury selection has been going on all week, and we've been covering it on our Best Trials channel. That is the channel where we cover trials, gavel to gavel. So the COE will get you that link up there. And for full disclosure, it's been boring as hell because jury selection, no offense to Dr. Marinakis, can be tedious and slow, and it is moving at a snail's pace, at a glacier's pace. So we are hopefully going to get there. You see it, Surviving Survivor Trials is the handle on YouTube, but we call it Best Trials in True Crime because we put the best trials on there. The trial itself is going to be very interesting. Of course, the death penalty is on the table, and there was a motion. There's news today. Obviously, we will get to in just a moment, but introducing the best guest, Adam Cox, of course, as I mentioned, connected to this in a way that he does not want to be. He is Lori Vallow's brother. They were on the show not too long ago. And then we've got Grunkle, not to be confused with Uncle Rex, who, of course, is Lori Vallow's uncle. And then we've got Dr. Christina Marinakis, over 20 years of jury research, study, and applied practice in law and psychology. And while she lives primarily in LA, she's in the courtroom nearly every week in a different place. She sounds like a news correspondent, which is why I had to get out of the business, traveling all the time. But she did some work on the Derek Chauvin case, now the infamous Minneapolis police officer. And she worked, I should say, on Vanessa Bryant, Kobe Bryant's wife's case versus the county of Los Angeles. So she brings a lot of high-level experience. First and most obvious question to Adam and Rex. I'll start with Adam. Any I don't know, any emotion this week, just knowing that here we go again, deja vu all over again, Adam, that this trial is now officially underway here?
Yeah, Rex and I have talked about it on our podcast, I think the last couple of weeks, because a lot of our optimists that follow our podcast are very sensitive. They're worried about Rex and I, which we appreciate. And we just, going back into it again. And for me, like, I see Chad's trial, but then again, on the horizon, I see that Lori's going to have her trial after that. So, I don't know if I'm overlooking Chad's trial because I'm justifying Lori's trial. So there's a lot to it. And with Rex and I, we interviewed one of the jurors for Lori's case, and he was giving us the behind the scenes on one of our podcasts about, being a juror, being selected, being not selected to actually go on, and all the different things that go on. So I'm sure that process is I don't know how long it's going to take, but for me, the sooner the case can, the trial can happen, and the sooner the results can happen, the better for me.
And Uncle Rex, by the way, COE, let those kids of mine know if they want, we can do pizza when this is over. It feels like I've worked 3 weeks in the last 3 days, not to cry myself a river, but I could use the break. So let those little kiddos know Mr. 01's a little spot. That's the name of the spot. So if they want to go, we're all in. But back on track here. Uncle Rex, Grunkle, same question for you. The reality now is hitting home that and I know Larry and Kay Woodcock, at least Larry has, not Kay so much as he's been speaking out. Just your feelings, your emotions now that we're here. Last time I talked to you, we were approaching. Now they are doing, thank you, a safe place to cry here. Thank you. And look, yeah, pizza for Adam's birthday. I will FedEx him a slice, no doubt. But Rex, your thoughts this week?
We've been trying to gear up emotionally for this. Lori's trial was such an emotional roller coaster. Maybe not a roller coaster. There weren't too many highs, but there were a lot of lows. We've been trying to gear up for this, but how do you gear up for emotions you don't know when and if they'll happen and what will trigger them? We hope to get a lot more information from this trial, a lot more answers. I think we all hope that, but though that information comes with a price, and it's got to be emotional. I'm checking in with my with a counselor that I see just for this reason. I haven't seen him for a couple months, but I'm going in saying, hey, what should I look out for? I don't know how to emotionally prepare for what may come up. So I think the whole family's experiencing the same thing. Everyone dreading it, but at the same time, everyone hoping that we get more answers.
Yeah, we had Megan on, Lori's cousin, Megan Connor, and of course she, she was feeling the same way. She was kind of feeling a little unsettled. I'm just curious, without poking into your personal business, if the therapist advised to you, if you thought it was good, if it helped you.
Yeah, I've been back a few times. Adam jokes that I have 3 or 4 therapists. I actually have 2. One I pay, and the other's just a good friend who's retired and will sit down with me every week. I spend a couple hours with him. He's just a tremendous mentor. But when you find the therapist you can trust and connect with, yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I connect with the one that helps me.
Rosemary wants to know, where is Adam? In his car. He is a mysterious man. He's coming to us from an undisclosed location in a bunker somewhere near Phoenix, Arizona. That's all we can tell you right now. But
sorry,
Dr.
my phone heated up.
Dr. Marinakis, it's good to have you back here. There was a question in the chat. Someone said, or a comment, and it said, lawyers do not want fair juries. They just want a juror that's going to win their case. Is that a fair and accurate statement?
That is a fair and accurate statement, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. If you think about it, the lawyers themselves want to win, and they're biased themselves, but we have an adversarial system. The idea is, if each lawyer is trying to get the jury that's biased in their favor, and the other side's doing the same thing, what you're going to end up with is a jury that's fair and impartial, because each side gets to get rid of the jurors or attempt to get rid of the jurors through the cause challenges and through the peremptory strikes. And so they're each, they want it to be favoring their side, but by the time it gets to the end of it, both sides work it out, and what you end up with is a fair and impartial jury, in theory. Now, certainly the side that may be better or have better lawyers may end up doing better, but the same thing goes with any aspect of the trial.
And Dr. Marinakis, I know you've got, it's almost a scientific job. It's also a job that involves a lot of understanding of human behavior. But there are real victims here, and here are 2 of them, 2 family members. I'm just wondering, what you would say, since they're right here, to Rex and Adam, being family members of Lori Vallow, and the fact that this is a horrific criminal case. I know we all try to keep the victims in our minds, but you have a job to do always, which is to seek the best jury possible. But as it pertains to the victims and all this, what do you say?
That you hope they have the best representation, and that their lawyers know what they're doing, and that their lawyers know when to ask for help. You know, there's some lawyers that believe that they can do it all, and they don't want to hire jury consultants like myself because they don't want to give up any of the money that's coming their way. And that's a shame. So you just want to make sure that you've got representation that's going to put your family, you know, best at heart for them, and that's going to know when they need help to try to get the best jury that they can.
Rosemary Romero here, always a powerful member, STS Nation, with great questions, and this is no different. What did Adam and Rex think? And please fire away with questions, because like I said, both Adam and Rex were on recently, and I'd love to get your guys' input. There's a lot to talk about because a lot has transpired over the week, but please jump in and put in the triple Q like Rosemary did. But what did Adam and Rex think of Lori's defense attorneys, and what did they think of Chad's defense attorney, John Pryor? Adam, I know you kind of keep a distance from some of this, but are you familiar on a little bit deeper level with John Pryor, or do you just know about him sort of peripherally?
No, I've kind of watched him and some of the things he's done. One of our optimists on our podcast made comments that they were intimidated by him until they actually went to the jury selection and they saw him in person, and said that he was short and bow-legged, and so he didn't intimidate her anymore. It was like maybe that was a comment that she made on our Facebook post. But everybody, like Rex has brought this up on our podcast, that everybody deserves a defense. But even with Lori's defense attorneys, Lori didn't give them anything to work with. I mean, zero. So they're going in knowing Lori's guilty, and there's no way you can win or even try to. I guess the win for Lori, I don't even know if there was a win for Lori, but I would think that at some point, some defense attorneys that know it's overwhelming against their client, they know that they're not going to win, but at least they can, defend the way that, it's set up. The courts are set up to allow attorneys to defend people. So.
Uncle Rex, same question to you. I mean, John Pryor is reportedly, and up to this point, going to handle this completely solo. And they're predicting it could go 10 weeks. For those who are doing the math, that's 2.5 months. So we're talking all of April, all of May, into part of June. That's a monstrosity of a trial, any which way you slice it. And then to have one defense counsel, Grunkle Rex, what do you think of that? And then I'll have Dr. Marinakis weigh in on the same thing.
I just appreciate that he's willing to do it, given how much evidence there apparently is against Chad. Chad needs a defense, and I appreciate everyone in that courtroom. I mean, there's so many people. When I first went to Lori's trial, it overwhelmed me with gratitude that many people would get involved. There are clerks in addition to the judge, and the defense teams are just at their teams. There are investigators that sit behind them. So, like everyone, I don't like what John Pryor's done, as a defense attorney, what he says, what he does, but that's the role he has to play. I appreciate that someone's willing to play that role, but I'm not going to like it the whole time, because he's aggressive. He's going to probably use every trick in the book, as he has used several already. And we won't like it at the same time. That's part of the system.
By the way, I failed to mention the most important thing, and that is that Grunkle Rex and Adam host the Silver Linings podcast. Adam, where do we find that? And when do you record? And I was humbled because Lindsay asked Carm and I to be on the show. We're trying to work it out. So hopefully Carm and I will hop on and be your guests one day. But Adam, where do we find it?
Well, we're on YouTube. We're on wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, everywhere. And it's called Silver Lining Podcast. And we air episodes on Tuesday morning at 6, and then Rex and I do a live every Saturday at 3:30 Pacific time, 4:30 Mountain time. So those are our 2 days that we do podcasts during the week.
And it's ironic because Adam Cox and Grunkle Rex both have faces for TV, but they're doing audio podcast. I guess YouTube is they're showing off their faces. So it's a smart move. Last time we were on, the Grunkle and Adam were getting a lot of love from the STS singles contingency. That's kind of a running joke on our show here. Super Planner Girl, who was helping us behind the scenes, and we are amazingly appreciative of that. We decided, she says, on Jury Selection Watch earlier that Chad looks like a potato. Someone else says Pillsbury Doughboy. We don't want to take shots at him, even though I've done that. I think he looks like a retired milkman myself. But on a serious note, we'll get into that a little later. He has almost no affect. I'm curious to get Dr. Marinakis' take on that. But let's go there. Now, so I don't forget, Dr. Marinakis. Here's a defendant who I guess is a dream for a defense attorney, because unlike Lori Vallow, who was smiling, and someone was asking about the Donna Adelson case a moment ago in the chat, she was beside herself in the first court hearing where the judge had to tell her to stop making facial gestures. Is it a positive for a defense attorney when you have a guy that's as stoic as someone like Chad Daybell? You can't read the guy.
Right. That's what you want. The advice to all defendants is to be serious, be still, don't show reaction, because the jurors can interpret reactions in different ways. Like one reaction, you may be doing something because you're nervous, but a juror is going to take that as you're being dishonest or untrustworthy, like swiveling in the chair or smiling. Sometimes people have nervous laughter from smiling, and the jurors can misconstrue that. So you give the jurors nothing to misconstrue by being as silent and still as possible. You could take a couple of notes, but you don't want to be feverishly writing notes down. No major reactions. I'm sure he's gotten that instruction from his attorneys.
One of the other questions, and I apologize because I can't remember exactly who asked it, but Grunkle Rex, whoever it was, wanted to know what you anticipate the big difference between the two trials being. Like, what do you anticipate being similar, and what do you anticipate being different between this and Lori's case?
I think there's going to be a lot more physical evidence in Chad's case. I think I've heard there's a lot more piled up against him. And the fact that his attorney is as aggressive as he is, I think you'll hear a lot more objections and maybe more substantive objections than we heard in Lori's trial. And he apparently has quite a slate of witnesses, of expert witnesses. I think we'll hear more about that and more countering the prosecution's witnesses. So that, along with the death penalty, I think is why we're looking at a long trial. Not because there's not plenty of evidence that we hope will convict him, but just because there will be a lot more interaction, I think, from the defense.
Adam, your take on this? What will be similar? What do you expect to be different?
Well, obviously with Lori and Chad being in cahoots with Alex is what we all suspect, that they're all together. That, I'm sure we'll hear some things, but like other people said, I feel like, from what people are saying, that Chad's going to try to blame Lori and Alex for everything. And so we'll see how that goes. But I think that the way that his attorney tilts it that way, may be something that will be different than in Lori's trial. But overall, I'm pretty sure that, although evidence is so overwhelming against what they did, that the similarity is going to be the results and the outcome. And so, like, to me, it's like all the things that they're going to bring up and all those things. I mean, obviously, we're going to have to relive some of those things again, which is painful. But when it comes down to the end of it, it's all going to be the same. Either he's going to get the death penalty or life in prison. And, either one of those, I'm okay with either one of those.
And those are the two obvious outcomes that are possible. Of course, there's always a chance that the guy is acquitted or not guilty, and that seems to be almost implausible with this particular trial. Dom's mom here, Silver Linings, has a great Facebook group too, Addicted to STS, my favorite name, selfishly, with a Canadian flag. That's why I love Canada. What would happen, Dr. Marinakis? This is a great question. If for some reason John Pryor, the sole defense attorney, couldn't continue, what if he breaks his leg? What if he has an aneurysm? These things happen. God forbid it happens. But what do you do?
They do. Typically, when one of the lead counsel has an emergency like that, they would declare a mistrial and start the whole thing over again if they didn't have a partner that could step in. Now, even though he's trying the whole case by himself, I'd be very surprised if there wasn't somebody helping him in the background each night, because it just doesn't seem feasible that you can do a 2.5-month trial completely by yourself, but maybe they're his associates or paralegals that are assisting. But as an attorney, you have to designate. It's almost like a will. You have to designate people who can take over your cases should something happen to you. But that attorney would need time to get caught up to speed, an attorney that steps in. So they would certainly declare a mistrial, and you have to start all over with day one, a whole nother jury.
Wow. Let's hope that does not happen, because, again, it victimizes the families, Adam and Grunkle Rex and Megan and everyone else. Trying to add this. This is obviously what it's all about. Not everyone knows this case inside out. So just a super quick primer, as they say. Kylie and JJ, they vanished back in September 2019. Chad is married to Lori. They run away to Hawaii and get married there. And then 9 months after that, approximately, the young kids' bodies are devastatingly and sadly found in a pet cemetery on Chad's property. Who actually murdered them and how it happened is still a lot of people's guess. Some people think that Alex Cox, Adam and Lori's brother, was involved somehow. He is no longer here to speak about it, but you can bet that the defense attorney is going to play that card. You see JJ, Tylee, and Tammy. Obviously, Tammy, of course, is Chad's wife. So these are the people that we should be thinking about. Man, Charles Vallow, and who knows about Joe Ryan and others. So, and this, of course, here. But thanks for bringing that up. And Grunkle Rex, someone was asking, because this, of course, is a death penalty eligible case. And Adam just talked about it briefly. Your thoughts? I know you're a fairly religious person. Your thoughts on the death penalty here?
I align just with what Adam said as far as Chad's concerned, whether he's rotting in prison from life sentences or rotting in prison while the appeals processes happen. I'm fine with either of those outcomes. I believe in an afterlife, so I think ultimate justice will be served there. But there are family members in my family that wouldn't mind seeing him get a life sentence and live a long, miserable life rotting in jail. That's a little harsh for me to verbalize as my own opinion, but it certainly makes sense to me. But could you imagine, you brought up Joel, if he got acquitted, who would be safe? And I think the same thing about Lori. Who would be safe anywhere, anyone, anytime? I mean, who would be afraid? Who could be around him and not be afraid that, well, I may cross him at some point? We get the psycho Lori or the psycho Chad that did what they did to these children. It's just beyond reason that could happen.
Yeah, Adam, didn't you say the last time around that you think or thought that you could have been a target of theirs?
Yeah, there was I guess a text that came out. One of the actually, I learned about it, I think, on one of the Netflix shows. That there was they were showing a text between Lori and Alex, and Lori was trying to tell Alex that I was a zombie or a Z or whatever, and so at that point I was like, oh, so Lori was trying to convince Alex that I was a zombie and that I needed to get killed. So that I found out that was I don't know, maybe a year ago or whenever that came out. I didn't know that until then, but then I started thinking about it, and I was like, you think, could Alex really have looked at me in the eye and came up to me and shot me and killed me? And I just, in my mind, I'm thinking, no, that could never happen. But obviously, with their conviction and what they believed and how they were going about things, then yeah, I mean, I realized that I was on the chopping block at some point.
We're going to shift back to Dr. Marinakis in a moment, I promise, because I've got a bunch of jury questions for her. But Rosemary, again, with a question for Adam. Adam, do you think you're going to be called as a witness in Lori's trial in Arizona, partly because of Charles Vallow?
Yeah. Rex and I, before we even started our podcast, Rex reached out to people and said, "Hey, we're going to do a podcast. Do you have any objections?" I think he reached out to the Arizona prosecution or somebody, because they called me, and they said that they on the list to be witnesses for Lori's trial. I haven't heard anything, any of the attorneys since that day, and that was a long time ago. So not sure what's going to happen, but I was the last person to text Charles before he was killed. So, there's a lot there.
I've got a little issue. I don't know if you're hearing me, but I just lost audio. We're having a little thing. So I'm gonna have the COE pop in for a second while I try to fix this. But Grunkle Rex, I think I know what happened. Hang on a sec here. We got to get off the Fisher Price set here. Give me 1 second, everyone, while I try to adjust this in real time.
Well, you adjust it. It sounded like Adam was cutting. I'll fill in a little of what he was saying if you want.
And it's not happening in real time.
Maybe it was my connection.
Rex, if you can hear me,
I can.
I'm gonna ask you about the this is a sensitive question. Give me a thumbs up if you're hearing me, because I can't hear you. Okay, so it's always tough to do an interview when you can't hear anybody, but I can see you still. But a lot of people in the chat have asked, and this is obviously very sensitive, and I'd love to hear your answer. But you are a member, as far as I know, of the LDS Church, and a lot of people are pointing fingers at the church. This is the case with all religions where there are extreme factions. People go off the deep end. Just curious what your take is on that as I finagle with this for a moment.
Sure. I think it's fair game to look at the religion, because they talked religion. They were both very devout, most of their lives till they turned into serial killers. So you have to address the religion question and see what influence religion was on them. There are other influences. What influences were the family? Was there abuse in their background? All these things are influences and are fair game to investigate. So, and I've heard people talk about the LDS Church and what beliefs might contribute to this, and I agree with those people. When you talk about getting personal revelation, and you're talking about spiritual communication, which the church believes in, it believes in the whisperings of the Holy Spirit, for example. Well, when you're listening to those whisperings, and if there's a Holy Spirit, there's also unholy spirits, and it's easy to be deceived. So, the fact that the church teaches spiritual communication, sure, that's a factor here, because obviously they were deceived. Obviously what they did is just the ultimate evil. And I wouldn't blame the church organization on that. I wouldn't blame the teachings. I don't blame anyone except for Lori, Chad, Alex, and anyone else that was a co-conspirator. But all of the other factors play a part in it. They just don't share the blame. The blame, to me, belongs to the people that committed these horrific crimes. Are you back with us, Joel?
And this might be the first show where the host can't hear anything. Or COE, can you bounce in for a moment, please, here in a very we got to get rid of the Fisher Price set. I have to figure out, guys, how to do a show without hearing anything. Adam Cox hopefully can relate. Since can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up, because I literally just the world went silent on me, and this is what I call an unmitigated disaster. For some reason, my microphone is not picking up, and it absolutely sucks. So, and I have no idea. The question is, where is the lovely COE? But let me continue on here and try to do this for another moment or two. But Dr. Marinakis, one of the big stories of the day, this is hilarious. And now the first person to ever podcast without being able to hear his own podcast. So this is a new motion filed to delay Chad Daybell's, by the way, STS pajamas. That could happen in reality. It could happen one of these days. But this new motion filed was to delay Chad Daybell's trial. Now, we found out this happened last Friday. It was filed by someone named Terry Ratliff. That's a lawyer who practices in Mountain Home. This has all been reported by the East Idaho News. I've never heard this name before. And then the motion was sealed summarily here by Judge Boyce. The motion is going to remain sealed until the judge is able to schedule a hearing to determine whether it's going to remain sealed and set the substance of the motion for the hearing. Dr. Marinakis, what on earth is going on here? How could this trial be delayed once it's begun?
This is very unusual. I could see it being delayed if it was a motion that was brought by the defense, but it seems like this is just a third party, someone that has stepped in and filed this motion. The only times when we've seen something like this happen is if someone has exculpatory evidence and they come forward with a surprise of something, or they uncover some big piece of evidence that they need to stop and notify the parties. That would be the only thing that I could think of why a third party would ask to delay the trial.
I'm going to try something here, guys. Stand by for 1 second. And this is either going to work or not work, but give me 1 second here.
Adam and I are sitting here very happy that we aren't having the technological
Can you hear me?
difficulties. Yes.
Now, I do not know why I cannot hear anyone. This is super odd because I just unplugged it. Let me cry for help here with the COE. Let me try to bring her in here. COE, are you there? 10-9-87654. COE.
I believe she's on mute.
I've lost all. Look at it. She disappears on me. I wish I could hear. That is a real problem. Stand by. Well, COE, are you in? Everyone, I don't know what to do at this point. So this is a complete disaster on air, complete disaster. Because I can't hear. And I am sort of saying I have Grunkle Rex. Is the COE talking to you guys? Can you give me a thumbs up? No, she has disappeared on me. Listen, this is complete chaos. I love the fact that Grunkle Rex and Adam are here for this. First time this has ever happened. Bear with me for another second, 1 second, and maybe there'll be a miracle here. This is going to go down as in the history books.
We deal with this on a weekly basis.
Yeah, we cause these problems, though. For Joel, it probably is technical difficulties. For us, it's operator error.
For us, it's like, Rex, hang up the phone because we can't hear anything if we're not on.
Grunkle, speak to me for a minute.
Sure. I could speak. In fact, Adam volunteered to take over the podcast if you need.
I don't know what to tell everyone. I can't get on, and the COE has abandoned me. So, sadly, I think we're going to have to cut this short. We can't hear anything. So I'll have to pick back up with everybody and figure out what is going on here with our Fisher Price set. It's time to invest in new equipment.
Fisher.
Oh, wait, now I'm hearing you. Speak to me. What's going on?
You hear it?
Yeah, now I hear you.
You just had to
Talk to
threaten
me.
the equipment. That's all it took.
Adam, talk to me.
Hello, Joel. Welcome to your podcast.
And Dr. Marinakis, can you hear me?
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
All right. Somehow I'm hearing you now, and I have no idea how. And I'm on the. That's fun. You see what happens? My wife abandons me. Space Coast abandoned. Okay, we're back in it. So this motion. I'm sorry. I apologize for the chaos, and this is obviously a disastrous moment, but we will get it fixed. But Dr. Marinakis, just fill me in because I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, it's highly unusual to have a third party request file a motion. It would make sense if it was the defense filing it, but the only time this has really happened is if somebody discovers new evidence, whether it's exculpatory evidence or some other significant evidence that they're trying to share with the prosecution. They may file a motion in that instance to delay the trial and so that the parties can discover this new information. But it is highly unusual.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. And Grunkle, now that I'm back here, and thanks, Space Coast has let me know. Space Coast, would you like to tell me where the COE is during all this? But Space Coast is able. He's a wizard on the West. The wizard on the West Coast is able to change some settings, so he just did that. But I'm a knucklehead, and Space Coast, I think it goes without saying that we're gonna have to troubleshoot this, you and I, because the COE ain't gonna cut it when it comes to figuring out what's going on with the system. So you and I will do that. But this motion, Adam, let's go to you first. What do you make of this? Do you even know? I don't even know if you knew about this because it was released later this afternoon. Had you heard about this?
No, but I have heard of other people, like in other cases, throw in their own 2 cents or try to make a motion. So it doesn't surprise me. But everybody thinks, I don't know what's going to stop the trial. Like, I don't think anybody's going to really pay attention to it.
Grunkle Rex, speaking of Silver Lining Podcast, now you can see my mother on this other camera. She's been hidden for weeks, but I had this little mural made, so now you can see it. And I have a little lampshade that just hangs in the air. So I was trying to get a second angle, and now I was forced into a second angle. So look, I'm trying to find a silver lining here. If this trial got delayed, Grunkle, how disappointing would that be to the family? I mean, I can't imagine that happening, but there's something weird going on. And by the way, have you ever heard of this attorney, this other attorney?
Never heard that name, so I wouldn't know what that is about. I think anyone that's following it is going to be disappointed. I think a lot of family members, we intentionally don't speak for all of our family members because there are a lot of them and varying opinions, varying feelings back and forth. But a lot of family members I know aren't following it and don't want to follow it. So they'll listen for highlights here and there. But I don't think a delay is going to phase them because they have tried as much as they can to tune out and to preserve their mental health. So those of us who are following it, of course, will be disappointed, not because it'll change the outcome of the trial, but we just want to get through it.
Yeah, I think it's unlike doing some more research. It looks like it may be related to media access, and the court grants certain media access to the courtroom, and then they only grant so many people access, and someone can bring a motion saying that they were denied access to the court system in order to view it. So that's what it appears to be.
A few people are like, wow, I can't believe I'm making a live. I'm like, you're making a disaster is what you're watching, a literal tsunami of problems unfolding before you. And I couldn't hear Grunkle, but I am hearing Dr. Marinakis. And part of me is almost starting to enjoy this because I guess I'm a masochist, but this is crazy. So, but KCL says here, in selecting Chad's jury, they currently have 44 out of, by the way, I'm going to go home and scream into a pillow and bang my bed, and my dog Fred is going to stare at me like I'm a lunatic.
I want you to cry. No, cry. Let it out. Write some stuff down and cry. Get yourself some therapy.
There's nothing optimistic about. Well, I guess I just said it. This new angle. But Dr. Marinakis, to you, KCL is all over this case. She's out in Salt Lake and has been following it very closely. In selecting Chad's jury, and this is it brings us up to date kind of here. They currently have 44. This is the most updated number out of 50 needed potential jurors before they start with each side getting 16 peremptory strikes to get down to 18 jurors. Just explain what this all means in English, what the process is all about here. And hopefully I can hear you.
Yeah, so the process in this one appears to be they're bringing the jurors in stages, and the judge is addressing hardships with them because it's such a long trial. There's some jurors who won't be paid or who have family obligations. So those jurors are dismissed first. And the parties thus far have been in agreement on most of those excusals when it comes to hardship. Then the question is, there's some questioning that's going on by all the parties in the case about familiarity with the trial, familiarity with Lori's case, and whether that's going to affect them. And I think there's been a couple incidents where jurors have admitted that they've read about the trial and at first said they had not formed an opinion, but through the lawyering and additional questioning, the lawyers were able to get them to admit that they've heard too much in order to be fair and impartial. So that's when it tends to slow down, is when you've got too many people that just don't feel like they can be impartial in the case, or they've got too much media exposure. But it seemed to be moving a little quicker today. And so I would imagine they'd have a jury sat pretty soon.
And you see here, as of Wednesday, it was 37 jurors, and now you're hearing 44. And when we get to that 50 we were just talking about, and the good doctor was explaining, they will be able to strike. Dr. Marinakis, Chad Daybell's attorney, John Pryor, who is his ideal juror in this trial?
The ideal juror for a defendant when the evidence is stacked against you is what we call a contrarian. It is somebody who will always argue the other side's position. It's someone who is, yeah, but did you consider this? Or maybe this could explain that. And they're usually coming up with some of the crazy ideas. There's the rule that basically the simplest explanation is the right explanation. But contrarians are always looking for ways around it. Well, maybe this. What if these text messages were falsified? I mean, they'll come up with some crazy stories in order to give reasonable doubt. And I've seen those contrarians convince a whole jury of reasonable doubt. And we have gotten acquittals on cases where it should have been a slam dunk.
Interesting. Rosemary Romero is back with the triple Q. She's the queen of triple Qs. Grunkle Rex, I'm going to ask you, even though I don't think I can hear you, but do you think that law enforcement in Arizona, this is the Chandler PD, failed Charles here? They're asking about JJ, Tylee, and Tammy, but I think most of us who are following this have seen the body cam footage where Charles is basically saying, look, I'm scared. They're threatening my life. And then he dies. Do you think that more needed to be done at that point?
Well, we wish more was done. Let me preempt the rest of my answer with this. I don't think they have fault. The people that have fault are Chad, Lori, Alex, anyone else as a co-conspirator. So I don't say, well, they have blood on their hands. All of us wish that all of it would have gone differently. And we can all think of scenarios where, well, if so-and-so would have done this, then maybe, JJ and Tylee wouldn't have been killed. So yeah, I can see that. And I can see people saying that. I wouldn't blame law enforcement, but of course we all wish that it would have gone differently. We wish they would have listened. We wish the psych eval that Lori reportedly went to and passed with flying colors would have had a different outcome. We wish a lot of things, but I'm not one to blame law enforcement, even though I wish they would have handled some of it differently.
And I could not hear a lick of that answer as the disaster train continues to roll on. I'm seeing in the chat that the COE is like, oh, what's going on? Oh, nothing. How was your Mai Tai, COE? Are you enjoying time on the beach as I'm suffering here? And this is again, an unmitigated disaster. I will be crying tonight. Don't worry, everyone. Philadelphia shoulder surgeon says, look at this. Adam's smile. I swoon. Do you get that a lot, Adam?
Wow, that's nice. Yeah, see, people seem to like my smile sometimes. I don't know about a lot, but once in a while, it happens. Somebody says stuff.
It's those dimples, Adam. You get them every time. Dimples. From Daddy Short Nuts, and by the way, he did not make up this name. His young child made it up for him. So he gets. And by the way, Grunkle, if I don't come to you, it's just because I can't hear you. Don't take it personally.
Right.
God, I just, we have like a legitimate show, COE, and you can't just reboot turning a computer on and off, COE. Oh, by the way, this is the camera, is not the answer. So I need you in here tomorrow, COE, and we've got to go through this and figure out what the hell the problem is so this doesn't happen again. But Daddy Short Nuts here. Who's the better juror, Dr. Marinakis? Someone with brutal honesty or someone who likes cheesy eggs when traveling with incompetent airline pilots? I don't know what that really means.
These are Daddy is alluding to some of the questions that are being asked during the process of jury selection. The lawyers have asked the jurors to be brutally honest. What is their opinion of brutal honest? And then there's sort of this trick. This is all lawyers do this about the airplane. We need you to have confidence. If you're a pilot and I'm about to get on this plane and you say, you'll think you'll be fair, you can understand, you think you can land it, we wouldn't want to get on that plane. And so the lawyers use that as an analogy during jury selection. And they've been using that the entire time, over and over, really asking the same questions.
Shout out to Jersey Jen. She knows that us Jerseyans are strong. I will overcome this somehow. I'm not sure how, but I will. Man, I'm going to be cuddling with Fred and Ethel tonight, using them as emotional support animals tonight. Dr. Marinakis, these last couple of questions are for you, and then we'll wrap it up. But if there's a guilty verdict here, jurors must consider if aggravating factors apply. And the jury is set to be sequestered during deliberations because this is a death penalty case. We'll get into the aggravating factors in a moment, but this whole idea of being sequestered, is that typical for this type of case?
Well, for this type of case, perhaps, but it is very unusual for jurors to be sequestered. And if they are sequestered, it would only be during the deliberation phase, which is what they did in the George Floyd trial as well. They really don't want the jurors to have outside influence and to risk being influenced by family members, by the media. Now, certainly there's media throughout the whole trial, but it tends to intensify around the time of deliberations. And under those circumstances, when there's a lot of media attention, sequestering may be necessary.
By the way, I think Adam Cox would agree with me that Dr. Marinakis has an awesome voice, very powerful voice. So that is a good thing, especially when you're on an audio medium. But this is audio and video, so there you go. But aggravating factors, let's run through these real quick. At the time the murder was committed, the defendant also committed another murder. The defendant exhibited utter disregard for human life. The murder was committed during another serious crime. The murder was especially heinous, atrocious, or cruel, manifesting exceptional depravity. How do you judge that? How does the jury pool go back and figure that out? Because it seems, on the one hand, 45, thanks to KCL, an update. On the one hand, it is somewhat objective, but then it gets into some subjective waters as well, doesn't it?
It does, and it is subjective. A lot of the law is subjective, whether someone acts reasonably. What is reasonable? Well, reasonable to one juror is going to be different than the other. What is seen as aggravating or disgusting and heinous to one juror may not be to another. So it really is going to come down to their collective wisdom and their collective sense of what is typical murder versus an aggravated murder.
Adam, by the way, I wasn't supposed to put up that comment about your smile and her swooning. She goes, really, Joel? You put that? Look at this.
Sorry.
Adam's never coming back for a number. I think the whole STS singles movement started last time. Adam, are you married? You're single, I think, right? That's how this started last time.
Yeah. It's all a blur to me.
Look, he's got guns too from all that pickleball. He's running around.
Oh my God! Look, I'm in my truck because I'm at a pickleball tournament that I'm running over there. So I came to my car so it could be quiet to do the interview. So I'm in my pickleball gear. Sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. Jenny Meow is telling me to have a beverage, which I believe she is implying should be alcoholic. I would need like a bottle or 3 right now. Hope 8 Fear says, Joel, this too shall pass. It may be like a kidney stone. I want to know, COE, can you let us know where you were for the half hour that my life was unhinged and in complete flux? Can you let me know? I'd like to know what you're probably looking for. Your phone is my guess. My kids, by the way, had or my oldest child had a picking your children. That's a horrific excuse. Don't be absent for the podcast. A horrible excuse. By the way, today I was at my kids had my oldest child had it was actually very cool. It was they presented like a family history of each of the kids, and they did a whole program at school, and it was very cool. But we get there, and the COE says, "Where's my phone? I need to take photos." To which I replied, "How the hell am I supposed to know where your phone is?" That question gets asked of me 17 times a day. Where's my why would I know where her phone is? Anyway, I need marital counseling on top of better audio. I promise we're going to wrap it up because it's actually bordering on funny at this point, if it wasn't so painful. At 11:40 this morning, one of the jurors that was being
on
questioned,
our podcast, therapy.
I got to get on Silver Lining soon. Dr. Marinakis, this juror said they support the death penalty in the appropriate context. That they can follow, this juror says, can follow facts, law, and instructions in the case. If considering the case, he doesn't favor the death penalty in every case where murder has been committed. And he goes on and on. He's number 44. He actually advanced, but how do you read that answer from your perspective as a jury consultant? Sounds like they're being very transparent and very honest, but at the same time, they can put your client to death potentially, right?
Yeah, you have to be wary of that. Certainly this juror said all the perfect things in order to get on the jury. Yes, I believe in some circumstances, but not all. I mean, that's what the lawyer, that's what the judge wants to hear. And I imagine that there's some people in this pool that are going to say whatever they think they need to say in order to get on the jury because they want to be part of a high profile case. We like to take jurors at their words, but I've had too many circumstances where the juror says something and then you go look on their social media, and on their social media is Chad's guilty, Chad's guilty. And so you just have to be doing that social media search to make sure that these jurors are being forthright.
You're going to dominate the very end of this before we get final comments. So another juror takes the seat. The man who's being questioned says he was aware of the case, but he thought it was over. So I think he was like confusing and coupling Lori with Chad. I would assume that that's maybe someone who's favorable, that doesn't know a lot. Am I wrong or right, Dr. Marinakis?
Yeah, if you're on the defense side, you want someone who doesn't know very much. There was a couple of jurors like this juror that said, I heard of it vaguely. Now, we want to make sure that those people are telling the truth, but that would probably be your best jurors, is jurors that haven't heard very much information, because the information that's out there is pretty bad.
Yeah, I wanted to get a sampling. So this is a final, I mean, there are a lot of jurors, potential prospective jurors questioned. This is another one around 11:05 this morning. It's a female. She tells them that she knows very little about the case. The reports of the kid missing and their death is pretty much all she knows. And then goes on to say that she does not watch the news, does not watch documentaries, and has not read anything. She supports the death penalty, but not in every case. So this, again, is a mixed bag. Is that someone that you would let pass on or eliminate here?
She'd have to pass on, because what she said wasn't enough to rise for cause. Now, the parties may choose to strike her as a peremptory because they may not want anybody that has any knowledge of that. You may have seen there was another juror earlier who initially said, I haven't heard much about this, but then she later admitted to watching documentaries and saw something on Netflix. And then she ended up coming around and saying, oh, I guess I have formed an opinion. So you can't always take the jurors at their word. And that's why we have the peremptory strikes, to get rid of the people that don't admit that they can't be fair.
Look at this. It's heating up. Adam is one gorgeous guy. Imagine now. And by the way, where is the love? I keep looking at the wrong camera because I'm all screwed up here. Where's the love for Grunkle Rex? He's no, he's something to look at too. But now imagine if Adam, if these were women on the screen and you and I were saying this as men in the chat, we would be me too'd, Adam. What's going on here? It's a double standard. We'd be getting yelled at. You can't do that. So, and look at this. Adam is multitasking, but Adam's like, screw that. Tell me how good looking I am. And he's
having technical difficulties.
I actually have a couple.
Well, and there he goes. This is a perfect ending to this show. It can't get any better.
Lost out.
Dr. Marinakis, we will get your final thoughts now. And you mentioned this kind of briefly. When do you think this jury will actually be seated? When do we see the real trial begin here?
I think they'll probably be seated tomorrow. They'll probably get to 50 jurors today or early in the day. They're going to give the party some time to go and collaborate and determine what their strikes are going to be. And then they're going to strike, probably alternating. Each side strikes, and that's going to go probably through lunch tomorrow. They may want to start opening statements tomorrow afternoon, or they may say we'd rather just start fresh the following day. They're going to have to instruct the jurors, do a pre-instruction, swear them in. That can take some time. So I would guess we're probably not going to get started with opening statements until the 6th. And
so that would be Monday. Makes sense. I made Adam's internet anxious. This is man, the COE. I feel bad for the COE tonight because when I get home, it is not going to be fun for her. I agree with you, Pam Coggin, that exit was on purpose. Wow, I can't wait for people to discuss Surviving the Survivor and the great audio quality of this show. Space Coast, we're going to have to get together tomorrow. Dr. Christina Marinakis, 20 years plus of jury research, study, and applied practice in law and psychology. And you saw her expertise here. She calls LA home, but she's frequently on the road covering big cases, and arguably no bigger case than this. Of course, huge shout out to the man with the best dimples in all of pickleball. That would be Adam Cox, now a professional pickleball player. By the way, how many strikes does each side get, Dr. Marinakis?
Set by the judge, but usually the defense gets more strikes than the prosecution does. But if you think they've got 50, they need to get 50 jurors. They're going to seat 18, so you need to have, you can do the math. I think it's 16 per side. But the judge can allocate them differently if they feel if there's too much bias in the pool against Chad. She could allocate them differently.
And this is a good question from the surgeon who's mad at me that I outed her about her fondness for Adam. Do the lawyers have to give reasons for their strikes, Dr. Marinakis?
You do not have to give a reason unless the other side believes that you are making the strike on the basis of gender or ethnicity or sexual orientation, depending on the state rules. If that happens, then they may have to explain why they struck the juror, but usually not.
Wow, these questions are great all of a sudden, just as I'm wrapping up here, but we'll keep going for a few minutes. Do they verify what the jurors say? Like if they have, will you cross-check people on social media in real time? Can you fact check?
We do. I don't know if these parties are. The judge certainly doesn't, but it would be up to the parties to do their internet research of the jurors to see that they're being forthright.
This is one way of putting this, a great show. If you like watching me sweat and suffer, it's a wonderful show. Rosemary Romero with the latest update here. Look at this. I am not T-Pain, a sadist. This has been one of my favorite shows. STS has had, trust me, from my side, I can say unequivocally that is not the case. This has been not fun for me, but it has been fun in a weird way. We now have 47 jurors. The man who this is going to mean a lot to, in addition, obviously, to Adam Cox and the rest of the Cox and Vallow family, is Grunkle Rex. Grunkle, I'm not going to be able to hear you, but when your lips stop flapping, I'll know that you're done, because that's how we do it here at STS. Just your final thoughts here. And I want you to know that we at STS Nation are supporting you, supporting your religion, supporting your family, and want you to know we have your back. And that's how we feel.
We feel that, and we appreciate the support. That's something, one of my first realizations in this whole case when I went to Lori's case, just to support my daughters, but had an epiphany there. And one was how much support everyone gives. We feel that. We joining that. We appreciate what you're doing here on the podcast, even when you're sweating it out over technology. Adam and I appreciate that it's you and not us, since we have that so often. But the fact that media is carrying this, law enforcement has done a tremendous job. People involved in the court system, we just feel appreciative to everyone, and anyone that carries the case, anyone that gets involved in the case, anyone that follows podcasts. Everyone's giving life energy to finding justice for the victims here. And we just appreciate that. That's why we do our podcast, and we appreciate that. And I said earlier, Adam and I don't speak for our family members. I do in this case, where we're all grateful for everyone that's looking for justice for the victims.
All I can say is that was poignant, because I could not hear a single word. Grunkle says he appreciates you, is relieved to see your tech struggles, and that court and law enforcement done too much. Same with news, and that's awesome. By the way, the COE pulled this up. I hope I can hear this. This is kind of funny. The books came in. I wouldn't get through a show, especially with technical difficulties, without mentioning the book. But this is Carm and I. We had to sign. We got more than I imagined. We got a lot of requests for signatures, and this is me putting Carm to work today. It's a good way to end this disaster. Here we go. Carm, you look beautiful today, and thank you for doing this. I love it. Did you ever think that at 84, almost 85, that you'd be signing autographs? And look how many of these they sent us. These are all books that people bought.
Notice I'm just working and not talking.
If you want Carm to sign it, there's two different types. There's a custom and this one.
It's very complicated because
but
everybody has
if you want a custom signed, it's signsurvivorbook.com. The one and only Carm will write cuss words at my direction.
Believe me, I will
Carm,
not.
did anyone tell you, and my wife, you look beautiful today, both of you. What a lovely calm day it has been.
They are all beautiful. Why don't you?
Who knew? By the way, who knew what would transpire later on? Let's put it this way: we were having a heated debate prior to this, and the COE is like, "I'm putting this on the show," so I had to suddenly tell them how beautiful and sweet they both were. I know how to play to that camera, even though I don't know where it is. Here's the rest of this. We're about to see Fred.
You take a little picture. The hard is working, Fred. Take a picture of Fred. Look how cute she is. She literally covered herself before.
Okay, Bugs, please post that. There you go. Signsurvivorbook.com. This is, thank you, Copper Horse. This is for the Fisher Price Upgrade Fund. We could use all the help we can get here. Space Coast and I will be in close contact after this, but signsurvivorbook.com. I finished all my signatures. There were like 70 pages of things that we had to sign, and Carm has at least half or more to go. And I told her she's got till 6 a.m. And that means if she doesn't have to sleep, I run a very tight ship. I don't care that my mom is turning 85. She's got to get the work done. COE, no more dropping off the kids. You've got to be here at all times. Copper Horse, LOL, you're the best, but warning, even with the best tech, it is user error. COE, you have no idea what you're about to deal with. Everyone, love you, America. I think it is safe to say that tomorrow, thank you, Dr. Marinakis, thank you, Grunkle Rex. Tomorrow, it is safe to say that we are going to be doing this show from Studio 1K, which stands for Carmela, not global headquarters. We'll be doing it from the other set. And at noon tomorrow, Phil and Scott will be discussing the missing moms in Oklahoma. They're not from Oklahoma. I think they're from Kansas, but they're missing in Oklahoma. And if you want to stay informed, you got to get your cell phone out really quickly because you've got to scan this. That's not long enough for anyone, but we'll keep you informed. We've got a newsletter coming out. Patreon members get all that stuff early and more frequently. So consider Patreon. But until then, love you, America. Love you, Utah. Love you, Boise, Idaho. Love you, Los Angeles. And of course, let's keep JJ, Ty Lee, and all the other victims in this case front of mind. We'll see you tomorrow at noon Eastern time. I would tell the guests to stick around, but I can't talk to you. So, Grunkle, I'll be in touch with you, and I look forward to doing your show. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you.